Hello everybody. My name is Sam. I'm the founder of Tern Heads, and thank you so much to everybody who's come along today. I'm here with Katie, Greg and Connie, who are going to be our freelance illustrators, who are going to run through what they're doing, how they got into it, you know, all that jazz. And we also have our two student hosts today, which is Francesco and Lawrence. So thank you so much to them. Give us a wave. And yeah, so the gist of it is basically, our three industry guests are going to kind of run through some PDFs. They're just going to kind of share a few slides, and then we'll hand over to questions. So please do, you know, if you want to unmute and you want to ask your question directly, then please go to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and click the raise hand, and then Francesco or Lawrence will invite you to basically unmute and ask a question. If you'd rather not do that, you can always put questions in the chat as we go along, and then Francesco or Lawrence will read those out on your behalf for you, if you'd rather do it that way. But you know, there's no such thing as a stupid question in the student takeovers. If you don't know, then ask away. Please don't feel nervous about asking any questions whatsoever. Just to give you a bit of background, I started Tern Heads in lockdown to help emerging creatives. I'm a senior graphic designer at a London-based agency full-time myself. I've been in the industry for 13 years now, and I love working in the creative industries, and I'm really trying to just kind of demystify the industry as a whole, really, all the different kind of channels, routes you can go down, all the different jobs, what they're like day to day, and just really focusing on kind of giving more content you can relate to. So not just talking to the CEOs and the employers and things like that, also talking to people who have just done their first internships, they're a year into their jobs, they're just getting started, so they can kind of report back and tell you what it's like right now as well. So do check it out. You can follow us on social media. We're at Tern Heads across the board pretty much. And then it's free to sign up to Tern Heads if you want to join the community forums on there and upload your projects. And we've got sort of opportunities and jobs going up on there as well. So yeah, please do join the community. And I think we've just got a few last people coming in now. I will unshare my screen and I'll hand over to Katie, who's going to go first.
Yay, thank you, Sam. Let me just share my screen real quick. There we go. Can you see? Yeah, cool. So yeah, my name's Katie. I'm a freelance illustrator, and I also work in TV as an art researcher. And I graduated from UCA last year. So it's been like quite a year, I would say. So this is like some of my work. I've mainly been working in editorial, so magazines and sort of online things for blogs, social media and bits like that. Here's a little movie boy. And yeah, so I just wanted to sort of run through the steps I took after graduating. I took a long break after COVID, and it was just a big old mess doing my major project basically. So I just needed some time to do nothing and to just draw for me. I worked part-time in retail, and I didn't really know what direction I was going to go in. I knew I wanted to do some illustrations for a magazine. That was like my one goal. But other than that, I was just sort of open to anything that was coming my way. So around October, I felt ready to start reaching out to clients. And while doing that, I also checked in with everyone, like people from uni, other grads and like professionals that were already in my network, just to see what everyone was up to. I also took a course with Inky Goodness, which was really good. And I would recommend it if you have the budget for it, how to be a freelance illustrator. And it just gave you the sort of the practical businessy side steps that I didn't feel like I got on my degree. Sort of filled in those gaps a little bit and was definitely helpful to me getting commissions later on. Yeah, so I'd really recommend, I know that you're not all students or recent grads, but having your website looking really good, because it is your first point of call for a client or a potential client. Having like social media that's great is good as well, obviously, but your website is your professional port of call. So yeah, definitely have that looking good and cohesive. I'd also wanted to pop in like a little how I track my clients. So I'll search for art directors basically for magazines, and I'll put them in a little grid. So I've just like done an example. So I put the name of them. You always want to get the name. Don't just send out blanket emails because it doesn't come across well. And then the company, obviously, the sector they're in, and then how you found their details, because I find that sometimes I'll go to write an email and forget where I found this person from, and so my email will sound like impersonal and strange. So if I can retrace my steps, it sort of makes me feel like I'm setting a better email. And then obviously like to-dos and parent companies and stuff is always interesting to know, because some publications run do the same thing. So yeah, keeping track of your contacts. Feel free to screenshot this as well if you want. I'm sure Sam can probably send a PDF round, because there's loads of like stuff in here, but yeah, screenshot definitely. So this is a example of an email I've sent to art directors, basically just being really specific, and maybe giving examples of things that you like from the publication or the company, and just keeping it short and sweet and polite, and research, and not just one blanket for everything. And I popped this down here because it's a really, really good resource from an art director of what they like in people reaching out on emails and things. It's like a good resource. I would recommend searching that one up. And I also send mailers. I have had recently some advice to send like bigger PDFs, like pages, but I've not tried doing that yet, so I can't tell you how that goes. But I try to keep it under 1 megabyte for like basically just a 1 JPEG with images on, and it's been working for me so far. Yeah, I'm only like a year in and only really 6 months into freelancing, so it's just my way of doing it. There are lots of different ways, but yeah, this is like a default one. But if a publication or someone is looking for something more specific, like feminine figures, then I'll sort of tailor the mailer to that. Same with the email, you sort of tailor it to fit the client. So yeah, I thought I'd also put in an email back. So this was from a magazine, and it was basically 2 commissions, and the budget was quite small. So I had to sort of figure out whether that would be worth it for me. It's not all about money. Of course, you want to make money, but there are other perks to doing commissions. A really good contact is great to have. The person that did commission me, I did go through with it, and now she's emailed me last week about another job. So it's like things add on to other things. Yeah, so I would just say it's a really quick turnaround in editorial, and the budgets are sometimes quite small, so you need to think about what your priorities are and if that aligns with you. Yeah, so pricing, there's like lots of resources out there. Again, feel free to screenshot. I don't want to keep going for too long and take up all the time, but basically there's lots of places you can find information, like the State of Illustration is a really good report about diversity. There's some books as well. Becoming a Successful Illustrator is really great. It has like invoices and things like that you can look at, and examples. Lisa Maltby's pricing guide is only £5, and it's amazing. I would recommend it to any illustrator. It's so good. She basically lists out every sort of sector of illustration and exactly what people are charging in like small, medium and large companies. It's just so helpful. I mean, it's all from agents, so it's like very reliable. And also you can just ask other people what they charge. At the moment, this will probably change, might change tomorrow, but as a rule, I sort of do £200 a day and £25 per hour. Obviously, it like depends on the project, and it depends on lots of different factors, but I try and stick to those sort of parameters. Yeah, so just ask other people. People are really friendly, and they will just talk to you about it, because lots of people think and believe that it should be spoke about more. So don't be afraid to ask. I thought I'd put in a little rough example because I get sometimes questions about what a rough is. And I didn't know really what a rough is until like 3 months ago. So it's basically just a suggestion of tone, of color, and maybe some notes. As you can see, my final isn't very different. That's because they didn't give me any notes. They were just like, yeah, go, which is rare, I think. So be prepared to like obviously change and adapt to what your client is saying, and how they react to your rough. But yeah, that's that one. Here's my invoice that I currently use. Obviously put all your own details in, and a number, an invoice number is always good to have. But you just want to like make sure you've got all your details nice and clear, but pop your branding on as well, because it makes it fun, and you're an illustrator, so making it look pretty is always good. So other than sending cold emails, which is the main way that I find clients, the other ways that I've like found opportunities, creative opportunities by UAL is great. You don't have to be a UAL grad to go on there and look at all of their opportunities, which is really good as well. On Twitter, very underrated resource. So many illustrators I know don't use Twitter. And when I say it, they're like, oh, I don't want to be on Twitter. And I did think that too, but it's such a good place to find work. I've put an example in a later slide, but it's just like, if you follow the right people, which are like art directors mainly, if you're interested in editorial, then it's such a good place. You can find work through connections and networking that you've already got. So people from uni, you could collaborate and start something together. In your current job, like, do you work in like an independent cafe or a shop? You could get in contact with the people at the top and see if you could do like a window display, or if you could illustrate their flyers, things like that. There's loads of different paths to getting work, and you don't have to be like working in the industry alongside freelancing. Making and sharing personal projects. So yeah, using mock-ups to get attention. So if you wanted to design work for a beer company, make some like beer can mock-ups. Just like be quite proactive with it. I would say be cautious of the dots, because I've personally found that things are under the guise of a collaboration, and that means that they're not going to pay you. So just sort of be a bit wary of it. And also on LinkedIn, don't just look at the job section. If you go in the search bar and search for like freelance illustrator or illustration opportunities or something along those lines, things do pop up as well, which is always good. So here's an example of finding work on Twitter. Someone posted, any illustrators willing to help, blah, blah, blah. I replied with my email and some images, and then they emailed me, and then I had like £200 in like a day. It was a really quick turnover, but it was amazing. I was earning money, and I found it on Twitter. It was wild. So yeah, Twitter, definitely be on Twitter. If you want to follow me, it's Katy Illustrator, but with an A, because it's one letter too long to be ER. And I do try to retweet opportunities as I see them. So yeah, art directors, follow art directors. I also got my Creative Boom feature from Twitter. I just replied to a writer for Creative Boom. And then like 7 days later, I had an article. So, and it's like press opportunities and things are great to help you be seen by potential clients. If people are writing about you, people get excited and they're like, oh, they're being written about. That's cool. So here's my CV as well. Not a lot of opportunities ask for a CV that I've personally found yet, but it's always good to just have one. And this is how I got my TV job. So it's like pretty up to date now. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's amazing. I haven't really had a lot of feedback on it. But yeah, here's my CV. And advice for now, this is more tailored for grads and students, but I'll try and add some more if I can think of any. So take advantage of everything you have at uni while you still can. I miss like visiting lectures, workshops, free like paper, like take all the paper from your uni. I miss all of like the free resources and things. It's just, oh God, I really miss it. So things like this, like the Tern Heads event, which is free, do it. If you can, like just if there's a chance for you to get more involved with your final show at uni, then do that, because things like that are great to put on a CV as well. And just jump into everything while you still can, because it'll be over and then you'll be like, oh crap, I didn't really do that much. Yeah, so getting your website and social media looking good and coherent. Yeah, so as I said earlier, it's your professional port of call. So have those looking nice. Begin researching clients. Yeah, so I had a long summer break. I didn't start reaching out until October, but I was thinking about the sorts of people that I'd want to work with, and I was making a list. And I still do that. I've got a note on my phone wherever I like think of or see someone who's worked with like a really fun or exciting brand. I'll always pop it down in my notes to refer back to later and to pop it on my actual table. But yeah, just start thinking about the sorts of places you want your work to be in. Yeah, engaging with other grads on social media, and not just grads from your own uni. My uni was quite small, so that there wasn't like a massive community of people to engage with when we all graduated. So, and it's always nice to network with other unis because they've had such a different experience to you. And you can sort of back and forth ideas and things you've learned and everything. So yeah, there are good places to find other grads. Tern Heads, for example. Sad Grads 2020 is a really great one as well. And the Arena UK, Fresh Meat, Intern, like all of these places on Instagram, most of them are. And they have websites, obviously, but I found a lot of them through Instagram. And it's just really great places for grads to sort of get together and learn and like, you know, help each other out because you're all in this together. Take a break over summer if you can. Yeah, take a break. If you can feasibly take a break and just do nothing or just work part-time and just chill. I needed to chill. I wasn't ready to just jump into a job or jump into freelancing. Like the moment I handed in my major project, I wasn't like, right, today I'm gonna do a million other things. Just take a break. You deserve a break. You've done loads, and you need a break. I needed one. Yeah, and that's my talk finished with 1 minute to spare because I've timed myself, so that's good. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'd love to connect with some of you. So yeah, give me a follow, and that will be great. I can't find my cursor and I need to stop sharing my screen. Exit. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to pass you over to Greg now, who's going to run through his PDF. Take it away, Greg. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Can you hear me? Is that, yeah, lovely. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, but that was so good. Thanks for all. There's so many things in there. I was like, those are really good tips. I'm going to use those. So yeah, I'm Greg McIndoe, or Headless Greg is kind of the name I use online. And I'm an illustrator and a design writer. So I graduated last year from DGCAD in Dundee, but I've been writing about design for maybe 4 or 5 years now. But obviously this is mainly about the illustration work. So my like presentation is a little bit different from Katie's. It's more just kind of thought about how should I structure it, and I thought I've just picked a bunch of my portfolio out basically and shown how things in my portfolio have led to jobs and how they connect. And I'm just going to go through things I've kind of learned as I've done those different freelance jobs. So hopefully that makes sense. So this is the project, I think my final project I did when I was at uni, and it was inspired by nature and the changing of seasons. And these were actually divided up into 4 designs, which were prints, and there were also GIFs that moved. But Katie, I don't know how you did this either, of making like GIFs in a presentation. So these are just the still versions. But yeah, they were meant to kind of spread positivity during times of social isolation. So that was obviously my portfolio, and from that, one of my first freelance jobs was designing this. which also moved. It was a Christmas card for Taiping, who are like a luxury rug company. And one thing I would say is I always ask when, because it doesn't always come up. Sometimes if like a client, they got in touch with me, they don't always say, we loved this specific piece of your work. But I think it's useful to ask, especially if it's quite an open brief, is there anything in particular that you like? And the Headless Heights, the last project, was what they said. And it was really good. They were really lovely to work with. There wasn't too much feedback. Originally, it actually had more eyes, but I had to take some away because they were like, we need you to put the logo on it, otherwise no one knows who it's for. And it was also good because originally it was for the UK, but they had offices all around the world, and other offices in America and all sorts of places decided they also wanted to use the design. So I ended up being able to triple the fee by the end of it, because other offices kept emailing me, and I was like, yeah, you can use it, but give me some more money, please. Which I think can feel a bit awkward, because you're like, I'm not actually doing any more work, but you've just got to remember that whenever you're charging, it's not just about man hours, it's about, the size of the license and where they're using it and all sorts of things like that. This is a print I did for the Make Bank. I actually work for them as a writer. They're a creative poverty social project, and they do like online resources and material resources for like children, not children, but young people at school who might be interested in creative careers. And I thought this is a print I designed for them for their online shop, but I thought it was kind of important to mention that I also do writing as well. And I think a lot of people have that they have kind of side hustles that they don't, just because someone's an illustrator online, it doesn't necessarily mean they make every penny of their money from illustration. And that doesn't make you any less of, like what I do is a creative thing, writing, but if you're working somewhere else, or regardless what it is, you're not any less of like an illustrator, if that makes sense. I wanted to mention this project because it was one that actually didn't go that well. The full quote, it was like a 2-pager. It's the next big thing is lots of little things. And someone got in touch with me, and it was for a good cause, but they didn't have, classic didn't have the budget. But because I wasn't doing anything, I agreed to do it because it seemed like something I would want for my portfolio. But there were some things that I wished earlier on I had just backed out of it, maybe. I think the thing I learned from it was like, trust your gut. Like at one point they said they didn't have a budget, but they didn't want us to think of it as being unpaid because they were going to give us some free jeans, which is not money. It is jeans. So yeah, I think going back, I'm glad I made this for my portfolio, but it's not. Yeah, jeans are not money. But the thing of working for free is you will end up doing, making things that you don't necessarily get paid for, but you should kind of do them. You can do them for yourself to build your portfolio, or you can do kind of collaborative things. The one on the left here was something I made with my friend who was in Amsterdam at the time, and we did this thing where we each, like a few illustrator friends, each chose a different piece of work from different ones each other, and we drew them in our styles. And then the one on the right was something I did for this collaborative zine that someone else from uni that I know was organising. And then I also really like the Still Here, Still Life, which most of you have probably heard of because it's so big. They're just like weekly illustration challenges that I've done quite a few of. And they're really good because they are quick, and you do them within the week and post them. And I think that's good because I think when people talk about personal projects, they can seem really overwhelming, and they are really good to have in your portfolio, but they don't need to be something massive. They don't need to be, because that can seem really intimidating to come up with this. I think also at uni, you can be very used to that, but they don't need to be. And that definitely like doing those really did help me develop my style after uni. And it led to some paid commissions. Like this is this new thing on Slack that's going to be like cards you can send via Slack. This is one of them. I actually did 8, but I don't know if I'm supposed. They're not out yet. I'm not so sure if I was supposed to share them. So I thought I'll include one, and I'm sure that'll be. And then it also, this was a bigger project I did with Creative Dundee, who are a big creative institution in Dundee, and I really enjoyed this one because it was a kind of mixture of things. I also used to study graphic design, so I did some branding, I did all the illustration bits, and there was like social media bits involved. And I think that really, like, you kind of always learn what you want to do in future as you go. And for me, I think it's definitely things that involve lots of different aspects of design. It's also occurred to me that I have not timed myself, so if I end up going way over, someone will need to just shout at me. This is actually the final project I was going to share though, is Wilson Strange, which is the book I wrote about mental health during my final year uni, and it hasn't like kind of informed any of my paid jobs so far, but it kind of, the themes of it and parts of it have really made me think about what I kind of want to do in future. Like mental health as a theme is something I really want to do more work towards, and there's also more kind of storytelling narrative things that are slightly more graphic and minimal, and there's also 3D aspects. So I think it's good when you're putting together a portfolio to always, like, the good bit of advice I've always heard was like, don't have anything in that you wouldn't want to do again, and have it, everything that you've got in there should kind of represent what you want to do in future, and that one kind of definitely does in lots of different ways. So yeah, that's kind of my portfolio as a whole, and this is what, like, a screenshot of what it actually looks like online. And I do think it's a good thing to have, as like Katie said as well. I know that, like, you can just have Instagram as a portfolio now, but I think there's something that feels more professional about having an online portfolio. And a lot of freelancing, I do think, is about confidence, really, and that having that site that is yours and you can do whatever you want with, and there's not like algorithms that are working against you, things, is just always good. Then this is an invoice. So yeah, one of the odd things I think about uni, because I've spoken to so many graduates, that it's not covered very often, is like what you put in an invoice, when it seems like a very simple thing that could just be mentioned. But yeah, mine's just, again, I'm sure I can share this somewhere, but it's just basically my branding, my information, their information, an invoice number, a little breakdown of what it was and how much money they're going to give me, and then my payment details. And I always give a month, unless there's a required amount of time that they specify, then I give them a month to pay it, because I think I heard somewhere once that was the standard. I think that is almost everything. This is an illustration of a dog, because when I was putting together my PDF and I was getting to the end, and I was like, I don't want to end on an invoice because that seems very dry. So there's a dog. And thank you. Thanks for listening. I'm now going to pass over to Connie.
That was so good. Oh my god, it's so amazing to listen to everyone talk. Yeah, Katie and Greg, that was so nice. I'll share my screen. Mine's going to be a bit of a waffle because it's a bit of a encapsulation, because I graduated a bit earlier than Greg and Katie, and I've had a bit of a strange journey to freelance illustration, but I'll share my screen and I'll let you guys know. Yeah. Cool, can everyone see my screen? Nice, okay. So I'll minimize this as well, so I'm not talking to myself. So hi, my name is Connie. I'm a freelance illustrator and animator from Brighton. I kind of got into illustration and I suppose the sort of normal way. I did an art foundation here in Brighton, and then I went to uni at Kingston University and studied illustration and animation. Yeah, I really loved it. It was a really great course. It taught me so much, and I didn't really think I'd be here 2 years out, being a freelance illustration animator. I didn't know what I'd be doing, but yeah, really excited. So this is some of my work. I do a lot of textured, playful, I suppose sort of feminine artwork. I left uni thinking that I wanted to create a lot of conceptual editorial pieces, so I really tried to build my personal work. A lot of these, I think actually all of them are client work, but a lot of them are something that I would try and incorporate into my personal style as well. All my artwork's digital. I used to work completely hand-drawn until I bought an iPad last year, and I managed to sort of emulate my hand-drawn feel digitally, which I think is great. It's the next one. Here are some of my favorite illustration memes. So on the left, you've got, you should charge more for your art. I'm afraid I scare off all my clients, but you know, your art's beautiful and so are you. I really enjoy these because I think they sort of, I find them on Twitter, but they've sort of like emulated what I feel like a lot of illustrators are feeling this year. Like Will Ferrell at the bottom, like the world's burning during COVID, and it's like, do you need any illustrations? And then a scheduled phone call my entire day. Despite being in the industry and working in the industry for nearly 2 years now, I still am like a bundle of nerves, and I think it just takes getting used to. It's definitely something I wish I was taught at uni, like how to just have a normal phone call with people, but yeah, sadly, I suppose you can't really teach that, but yeah. So this is some of my work when I was at university. As you can see, it's all hand-drawn. I did a lot of observational drawing, which really informed my practice. Where I studied at uni, they really pushed that, learning by drawing, and just drawing again and again and again. On the left is Luton Fish Market, and on the right is some girls fishing. This is part of my final project, which ended up being a experimental animation. But it was really important in me informing how my style was going to be when I graduated. At university, I tried to completely ignore the sort of trope of having a illustration style. I think it's really important to just experiment and do loads of different things and not try and fit into a commercial box, because university is so important, and developing your sort of visual language is so important without trying to mimic someone else, which I know is so difficult, but that was something that I was really kind of told at university that we needed to do, and I'm really glad. So this is ended up being, I suppose, what my style is now. And this is my first ever commission, which I got when I was just at the end of my second year of university, which was for a Recovery Partners, which was a sort of charity. And they had a benefit for World Mental Health Day in Brighton, and I was asked to do the poster. You can sort of see how it's developed. One of my most recent illustration pieces. This is an editorial illustration about beer gardens in the summer, and you can see how they're slightly related, but I used to use a lot of flat colour, and now I try and add a lot of depth and tone and textures, and that's something I've just learned in time. Between this times, I also studied abroad in France, which really helped me inform my practice as part of Erasmus. I mean, I feel really sad because I feel like Erasmus is probably not going to go ahead now due to, I mean, if you're based in the UK, but that was really important because I met lots of people abroad, and there's so many different styles out there. I think I definitely learned there. They were like, your style is so English, like how you draw is so English, which was really interesting to hear, because there's just so many different ways to visually communicate something, especially when you're drawing. And apparently, if you live in a different country, I was in France, they could really tell that this was an English drawing. So this is my website. I think it's really important if you want to become a freelance illustrator and animator, or you know, any sort of freelancer, to have a really strong website. I use Cargo for mine. I just find that it works best for me. I've got my about page on the left, which has pieces of information about me. It also has selected clients. I try not to list everyone I've worked with, because I think since graduating I've worked with so many different people, and lots of like tech organizations that maybe people wouldn't know, so I try and put big names in there, so if someone's looking there they can recognize them instantly. I also put selected shows, and then I've also started now, due to hearing lots of people do it, kind of asking for feedback and then putting a little like nice words about me, so like clients know that I'm good to work with, good communication, that's always important. On the left bar, I've got lists of just illustration projects, so commissioned works, and then below, you can't see it because it's a screenshot, but I've got personal work, and then I've got animations. So this is how much I made my first year out of university. I made £6,276 in about 6 months, because I graduated in the July of 2019. I was pretty sort of chuffed when I ended up doing my tax return and finding out how much I'd earned. But to be completely transparent, which is something that I like to do within my work and when I talk to universities and organisations, this is not all through illustration. When I graduated in 2019, I actually moved to London, first of all, out of uni, because I had no idea what I wanted to do, and one of my friends had a room that they were renting, so I just went and moved in there. And that was great, and I did some running for an animation company, I did some editing, which I was absolutely awful at, so they didn't ask me to come back. What a surprise. But I still really enjoyed the process and the networking and meeting lots of people. From that, I got a job doing some social media for an illustration agency, which I absolutely loved. I did some printmaking. I worked in a print shop. I did so many different things, all part-time, like random days, trying to fit them around building my personal portfolio. Because I'm sure like a lot of people studying illustration, or people who are just trying to make it, you leave and you're sort of dropped into this big pit, and you're like, how the hell am I going to make money when I haven't really got a name for myself yet, and I also don't really know how to contact people and reach out. I don't know where they are, or even what sort of bracket I want to fall into. So yeah, I started working, doing lots of different things, and then slowly built up my personal work portfolio, which was really great because that sort of got me the commercial jobs that I have today. I really love this piece by Tara Collette. I thought I'd share it. It was made off the back of that whole rethink, reskill, reboot sort of fiasco that happened last year. It's basically a list of all the part-time jobs she's had. I know Greg mentioned that you still valued if you have a part-time job, but I really want to say that again, because I just think it's so important to know that. I've had, throughout my whole life, I've had so many different part-time jobs, and so many creatives I know still have those part-time jobs. When I left my last part-time job last year, just before COVID, I started working full-time as an agent, which was an absolute godsend, because it was just as COVID kicked off, and so many of my friends who were freelance basically had to go back and get jobs in supermarkets, or sort of move home, because everything just turned to absolute rubbish. So having that job was not only great and really informative to me, but it was also so instrumental in me being able to still live independently and work independently and build my personal work around that. And it also gave me a lot of skills. I also wanted to say that every single job that I've had, I've never got from applying for a job. I've always got it from emailing people, which I'll talk about a bit later. But I think that's a really important skill to have. It's just reaching out and emailing, because loads of places won't know they actually want to hire someone until you sort of make yourself known. And also lots of places get so many emails every day that if they do hire someone, it will probably be from the back of an email. So I thought I'd add some very good skills. I can't really see at the top, but I think these are sort of really good skills to just get started with. There's obviously so many more, but I'll go through these quickly. I think being a kind and confident communicator, not only in person but online. I don't know about everyone here, but when I was at uni, we did so many presentations talking, but we never sort of taught how to present ourselves online and talk to people. It's so important to learn how to craft an effective cold email, which is basically like a cold call, like what Katie and Greg went through. But it's always good to thank people for their time and information, even if they don't want to commission you, because it really sets a precedent of what sort of person you are. And it's just great to always have a reply, just to have the last word in. Being versatile, you don't have to know everything, but be open to learning skills that often sit alongside illustration. So for me, it was really important to learn animation. I wouldn't be now full-time freelance if I didn't know how to animate, because the money that I've got and payments that I've got and commissions that I've got that has enabled me to be here without a full-time or part-time job is all in animation, because the budgets are just so much higher. I think partly because the skill set maybe is sort of regarded as slightly higher, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's just that it's a lot more work, and obviously something that's a bit more accessible to a lot of people. So I think it's really good to learn how to animate, even if it's just on Procreate. Like, all my animation is on Photoshop and Procreate. I have no idea how to use After Effects. I'm just trying to piece that together at the moment, as I do two animation jobs. Layout design, storyboarding, typography, all these things are just so important to learn. Like, storyboarding is such an essential thing, because there's so many projects, even if they're not animation based, where they want roughs and thumbnails, and storyboarding is a really good skill for that. The ability to say no or negotiate. Like like we said, you can just say no sometimes if it's not worth your time. I would like to say never work for free. I've worked for free myself and it's not paid off, but I just think it's important to not work for free, because it not only sets a precedent for people commissioning illustrators in the industry, and will make the person think, oh, okay, I don't have to pay for illustration, so they will never pay for it again, or they'll reach out to people who don't ask for payment and commission them time and time again, which isn't fair, because obviously we all want to be paid and we want to make some money, but also learn how to negotiate with that. Like, you can always just ask and say, I want to do this, but give me some money. Being able to work without a brief, this is me with my agent hat on, but yeah, people need to be able to work without a brief. Creating personal work is so important, because every client that I have had come to me, they've never referenced previous client work, because they don't want their work that they're commissioning you to do to look like another client's piece. It's always my own personal work, and they want it to look somewhat similar to that. So being able to work without a brief and just creating and churning out personal work, even if it's just something tiny, like a tiny little GIF or like a spot illustration, is so important. And just keeping it fresh, and also just helps you develop your style, whilst not working with a client, because a client probably won't want you to develop your style whilst creating a piece of work. And then the final thing is just make friends. Like, I wouldn't be talking to you guys today if I wasn't friends with Katy, and we met through I think it was Instagram or Twitter, but that's like how you make connections in the industry. Just being friendly and making friends, it's so important, and it opens opportunities, but it's also just really good to have that support bubble and get to know lots of people. Yes, that's an important thing to do. Here are some examples of like a cold email, and then also me asking for some money. So this is to Shannon, Financial Times. So I said, hi Shannon, how are you? Hope you're having a good start to your week so far. Nice to see a bit of sun. And then I added more and more. You can screenshot this, or I'm sure we can share it at another point. And then just below is an example, which I don't think we've spoke about before, Greg Case didn't share, which is just about asking for more money. So this is a project that I got pitched, and they basically asked me to work for free, but it was a really fun project. It sounded really fun, but I was like, no, I need some money. So I said, so love to hear from you. Hope you're both keeping well. I'm so pleased to hear you like my work. This sounds like a really gorgeous and exciting project, and I'd love to be involved, but sadly, due to the amount of work required, I'd need to be financially compensated. I have worked previously for an organisation where I was compensated on a small scale at £300 for a similar amount of illustrations. For this, I think it was 4, and I thought I could knock them out within a day or two. So I thought, that's fair. That's my daily wage. Like, when I started doing freelance, my daily fee sort of worked out about 100, but as I've increased it, it now sort of sits between 150 and 300, depending on the level of work. And then I said, in return, we create some excellent work together collaboratively where both parties felt invested and valued. And then I said, if you're still interested in working together and have wiggle room to offer us all free, then I'm available for a Zoom to discuss this. I think it's really important that you sort of keep it open, being really friendly, but also being quite firm. Like, sadly, they got back to me and said, oh, we'll go and speak to our manager and see if there's any wiggle room. And they came back and said there's not, because they'd already spent the budget on a designer, which I was like, you can't really ask me for work for free and then pay a designer, but you know, that was fine. But we, you know, it still ended on good terms, and I think they sort of left going, okay, we need to pay artists for their time, which is what we should all be doing. Yeah, this is a little comic that I did when I was making this presentation for my uni when I did a talk a couple of months back, which was about value. And I said, you know, I'm kind of shouting into like the atmosphere, I have value, and then people are saying, would you be able to work for a shout out on IG of £4.50, which is just so common, not those exact terms, but people asking you for free work. And again, to reiterate, you know, unless you really think this is going to help and progress your personal portfolio and get your work out there, don't work for free, because it sets a precedent for other artists who definitely need to be paid. Oh, here we go. So this is another question I put out into the void where I was asking whether my peers felt valued. And I sort of asked just, you know, do any of my fellow illustrators feel valued or not valued in the industry game? And sadly, a lot of people said no, which was really sad. But hopefully, I think this is changing. And I think part of what is changing with that is that studios are giving a lot of support, agents are giving a lot of support. There's organisations that I'll go through in a second that are giving support. But sadly, it is a game where you don't always feel valued. Like, you know, some people, you know, say, oh, it's too expensive. And it's like, well, we need to live. Like, we need to be able to pay bills. This is a full-time career for us. This is a time I felt super valued. These are some places to network that I think are, you know, value emerging creatives. Obviously, Tern Heads is another great organisation on there. But yeah, being an artist fairs and markets, I think it's a really good stepping point. This is a market that I did as soon as I graduated, I think within the first month, and it really just made me go, wow, there's so many amazing illustrators and people out there who like care as much about illustration as I do. And it really made me go, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the industry I want to work in. And this is an example of Lightbox. I realise I'm like running a bit over time, so I'll just go through it quickly. But Lightbox, it's mostly for America, but it's free. You can just search, like type in anything like the Washington Post, and people will have put the job on there, the rate they were hired for, and whether they were paid, and then what year. I find this is useful because a lot of the time you'll be pitched straight out of uni and they'll want to pay you slightly less in some industries. And some places might understand that you're a new graduate and might be open to a smaller fee, but this is good to kind of know, actually, someone was paid £3,000 for the same thing, so I shouldn't be paid 100, if that makes sense. And this is just an example of an editorial illustration I did. It was £150 per illustration. There's the rough, there's the final. It was 1 week turnaround. I did 3 of these. The sketch took me 2 hours for all 3, just because I usually just work in black and white with some colour options if they want them. And then the finals took me 1 day. So worked out about £450, so that's fine, you know, for me, but it's not the highest fee. Sadly, UK editorial doesn't have a big sort of bracket for paying people. I'd recommend branching out to the US and elsewhere. But hopefully it will change because people will start asking for more money. I've just decided that I'm going to start asking for more in the last couple of weeks, so we'll see how that goes. And then, yeah, just to finish off with, some of these things have been a bit negative, and there's so many nuances with illustration, but it's such a great career to move into. You know, having words like "you've been a joy to work with," like, just like makes my day, and makes me realize that I really enjoyed this sort of career, and I really hope that all of you guys get into the same sort of industry because it is so rewarding. But yeah, okay, so I'll leave you now and I'll pass you back to Lawrence or Francesco, and I'll stop sharing my screen. But yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was flooded through that.
Thank you for sharing your experience, guys. It was really great. I have one question. Since you started your freelance job, your freelance business, how did you look for job opportunities? Use any website? And when before COVID, did you used to have a lot of interaction in person, or was it always between websites like Fiverr or other website they use?
I mean, maybe this is just speaking for me, but it's always been online. I think it always will be, since like computers are a thing. I know back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of people would go with their like, you know, actual real paper portfolios. But yeah, everything is online. And I think a lot of the time, like Katie said, through Twitter, I didn't realize Twitter was such a big place to find work, but it is. And also just Instagram, like most of the sort of jobs I've had are either through Twitter, Instagram, or cold emails. So I think that's probably, yeah, from my point of view, I can't speak for everyone. I think it will just all be digital from now on. But I'm happy with that because I don't want to travel up to London or go to different places. I think it should be more accessible. But yeah.
Yeah, I've had the exact same experience. It is all online now, exactly as Connie said. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had kind of the same, like applying to things online. I'm not on Twitter, and I feel silly. Maybe I need to be on it. And then also I think it may be more for graduates. But I did get a lot of work through putting, because another thing I think is good to ask people is like where they found your work, and being involved in like D&AD things and online degree shows, a lot of people then came to me through them. So I think like being online can be very weird in some ways. If you put your work out there, it's like, who's even seen this? Sometimes good people. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question actually. Have you guys gone freelance out of choice, or do you feel like you were forced into it? And what led you to the decision to go freelance?
I think I definitely, when I was at uni, like my final year, I remember saying to people, I don't have a freelance, like the mindset to be freelance. Like I never intended to do it, just because it's so unpredictable. And yeah, there was something about it that I was like, I could do that. So I do, but then I'm glad I'm not glad of the pandemic, but I'm glad that I was forced into it in that way, because yeah, I have really enjoyed it, and now I think like, well, actually, maybe I could do this, like long term, because I just think it takes a lot of like confidence to do that I maybe wouldn't have had if it wasn't kind of the only option.
Yeah, I think I've had like the opposite experience to Greg, whereas when I was at uni, freelancing was like the dream, like being able to be your own boss and like pick and choose what projects to work on and sort of, you know, be at the forefront of your own business. That always appealed to me. It was always something that I was interested in trying. Yeah, but there's, having done it for around 6-7 months now, there's so much behind the scenes stuff, like more than I'd realized. Like you think, oh, you're just going to be drawing nice things all day for all these clients you're going to get magically, but it's like there's so much. And like some weeks I'll do more behind the scenes admin than actual creative work, and so it's just like finding that sort of balance with it and getting into the flow. But yeah, it definitely appealed to me when I was at uni.
Yeah, I think I agree with Katie. Like it was like sort of when I was at uni, it was like that's the dream, that's the goal, be freelance. But it wasn't an option for me when I left uni. I mean, I've spoken about this online a lot, but you know, I left uni with a lot of debt, not just from the student loans, but personal debt, because I just couldn't afford to go to university. So when I moved out, I kind of spent my overdraft and I ended up having to move home. And I was very much in this mindset that I can't go freelance, I need to get a job. So I kind of worked lots of freelance jobs and then got a real job because I was like, I need to survive. And I thought I'd be doing it for a really, really long time. But just by sort of chance this year, I was furloughed by my job and I was like, cool, okay, I'm being paid. I should probably do something with this time. And at first I just went on loads of walks and was really sad because I was like, okay, I'm going to lose my job. But then I was like, no, this is a chance to actually do my work. So I think I was really lucky because I had that opportunity. And then I've handed in my notice, yay, last week. So I'm leaving my full-time job, which I was doing alongside my own stuff, to do full-time freelance because I managed to get just a weird big lump of commissions all at the same time, which has enabled me to not be able, I don't have to get a new job, I've figured out, until October 2022. So that's kind of like my sort of goal, is that I don't have to do that. But yeah, I think it's always been a sort of dream to do freelance. But yeah, like I think Katy and Greg said, it's not for everyone. It's a lot of admin, and if you haven't got any work on, it's stressful and exhausting and very emotional. But still recommend it. It's a good feeling.
So we have a couple of questions on the chat. So the first one is from Manisha, and she was wondering how many chances do you have to be successful in the creative industries?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. It's like you just need to put the time and the commitment and the practice into it, and it might take like months and years. But if you have a passion and a drive through it, you know, it has to be fulfilling for you before it's fulfilling to the world. And if you're enjoying your practice and you feel like your output is good and you rate it, then that should be the number one thing. Obviously, you want to make money from it, but from like a personal point of view, that should be like a priority as well. You know, having a chance, do you mean like other people's opinion? Because it's like, you know, it's a bit subjective.
And freelance is good in that way, because it's not like a job that you kind of get one chance at and you can be fired. You know, you can't be fired from being freelance. So if something does go wrong, you can find other clients that maybe you're more suited to, or go down other avenues. So I think sometimes there can be that mindset of, especially when you graduate, like, this is your chance, you've got to do it. But I don't think that's the case.
No, I definitely would say I'd agree with Greg. Like, if you're thinking when you graduate, or, you know, this is my chance, a lot of the time tutors and other people drum it into you that like you need to jump off this like diving board into success. But I mean, like, it's taken me 2 years to now kind of establish myself and go and get emails coming in for commissions, rather than just sending them out and going, oh, okay, I you know, I am established, I'm getting work, people like it. And you know, what's successful, like, where, you know, you can have loads of Instagram followers and, you know, still not have any work, or you can, you know, have none and have constant work and be freelance. Like, there's never a different time. And like, I'm 25 now, and I thought I'd be like mega successful at 21, but it just takes time, and it's fine. Like, I've got friends who are like 35 and are just making it. Like, you know, there's no timeline. As long as you're enjoying what you're doing, then yeah, I think, yeah, there's as many chances as you want. There's no timeline on being an artist. No one sees your face anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe we have another question. What website builders do you use for your portfolio?
I use Squarespace, but I also have like a blog and more like writing stuff on there. So I wanted a like website that did quite a lot of different things. But I think if you want like a website that you design, Squarespace is really easy. Like, you don't need to do any coding or anything, because I don't know how to do that.
I use Wix. I've sort of, basically in my second year, we had a module where we had to like make a portfolio website, and I used Wix for that. And I've sort of just kept that and like changed the domain name and sort of edited it and made it better, way better. But yeah, I just sort of stuck with it because it was very easy to use and quite customizable. But yeah, there are lots out there, and I think having like a research and seeing which one fits you best is definitely a good thing to do.
Yeah, I just use Cargo, just because I found a YouTube tutorial on it. So yeah, anything that has a YouTube tutorial, and you can like edit the HTML, like Katy said, to make it more custom for you. But yeah, I think whatever you find easiest. Like, when I was an agent, if you're looking on an artist website, I wasn't thinking, oh my god, they use Wix or Cargo. I was just like, as long as the artwork's there, then yeah, it doesn't matter.
Another question from chat is, what are your thoughts about illustrative internships?
Where are they? I don't know. That's an interesting one because I've sort of been like constantly on the look for like internships and things like that since graduating. And obviously if they're paid, they're great. If they're not paid, they're not great. And for illustration, I don't know how many there really are out there. I know there are a lot of like design internships, but I don't know. Does anyone else know?
Yeah, I think they're a lot less common for, I don't know anyone that's really done. I think if you're, because obviously with illustration, you can do so many different things. So if you're into something more specific, like ceramics or like risoprinting or something, there are ones you can do for that. But just general illustration, I think because we all just are loners and work on our own, there's not always the opportunity for that.
Another question is, do you tailor the amount of time spent on a project according to what the client is paying?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say, yeah, definitely adjusting your fee depending on how long it takes is so important. I mean, like, I think a lot of the time now, a lot of clients say, what's your day rate? Which I find quite frustrating because like my day rate might be 150 if you're asking me to do a black and white drawing of an egg, but it's going to be £1,500 if you're asking me to do an animation of someone cracking an egg. Like it really depends. So you can ask and you can also just be upfront. Like I think what I've learned is saying this is my day rate, but this will depend on what you're asking me to create. Like I'm not gonna do something complicated for that. So yeah, I think you can definitely just say this is my day rate, but it changes. And I think people will hopefully understand that. And a lot of the time, I mean, in my experience, if I've said this changes, they will usually say, oh, this is what I want. Can you just actually quote me for what I want? And I'm like, okay, well then it's not my day rate. And then you can just sort of figure out a budget from there.
Yeah, I've always done the same of like not having just explaining that like it's not really a day rate, it's like a project fee kind of thing, because it just does, there are so many factors that go into it, and it also it's just not right, because it would seem as if all that makes a fee is time, whereas there's so many things you can add on. You know, if it's like a rush job, you can add on extra money because it's going to be quicker, or there's just like endless things that can add more money and should.
Yeah, and just like as Connie said, just being transparent with them and saying that, you know, this thing is flexible and will change depending on what you ask or what are you asking, so I can give an accurate fee, because otherwise I can't. Yeah, being transparent definitely about that.
We have another question. Would you recommend jumping into animation as an illustrator, or starting or getting better at illustration first?
I mean, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I don't think any of us would define ourselves as animators primarily. Like, I suppose it's just an element of it. But from studying animation, if you want to be an animator, just go straight into animation. Like, you don't have to be a good illustrator to be an amazing animator. Like, it's really about what sort of profession you want to go into. Sadly, I think a lot of art directors lump illustration animation into the same thing, but they are very much different jobs. And if you can animate as an illustrator, amazing. But then you're more of an animation director, because it's your style and your process, and then you're getting other people to probably fill in the blanks and animate for you. But yeah, if you want to be an animator, just go straight into animation. I mean, you can study illustration and animation at Kingston, not to advertise my course too much, but I think I would say jump straight into it. But if you want to be an illustrator and animate, then probably learn how to illustrate first, is what I'd say.
What can someone do if it's not happy with the art portfolio, if it's not too great?
Just keep making work. I think if you don't, I left uni and I absolutely hated my work. Like, I really felt so disappointed that I didn't have a commercial portfolio that I thought was commissionable. And for ages, I was just never sent any emails to get commissioned work. I just was like, no, there's no way anyone would hire me. So I just sat and made loads and loads and loads of work. So yeah, I think if you don't think your work's great, that's like a really good thing. When I was at uni, someone told me that if you hate your work, that is amazing, because it means that you can critique your own work. It means you have taste, because you can tell that your work's not the best thing in the world, which is good. You should never think your work is the best thing in the world, because then you're never going to grow and learn. So yeah, good. If you don't like your portfolio, good. It means that you are going to go on a journey and create like amazing pieces of work and be happy at some point. So yeah, it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, and I left uni as well hating my major project, and I found like I put it on my website and I just looked down my website and I was like, what is this? This is not what I want to be doing. So I just sort of like set some time aside to just not reach out to clients and just relax and just make stuff I wanted to make and see where like that would take me. As Connie said, it's like it's a big journey, and your style, whatever that is, it will evolve and it will change. And I look at the things that I made this time last year and they're completely different to the things that I'm doing now. And it's exciting. So yeah, just keep making, definitely.
Yeah, I think I know a lot of people that's been a very like similar situation for if they leave uni and they maybe like not everyone, I don't think anyone likes everything they make in their final year, because you get weird asked to do things that you don't want to do again. So yeah, you can, I think if you look at your portfolio and you don't like what it is, you can also always like edit it down just to the bits that maybe you like more, and then base it on them and just take your time. Like it doesn't need to be this thing of if you're, especially if you're graduating, like, oh, you need to do it now, like take a bit of time and make stuff. I also had this thing once of your taste level is always like a few years ahead of your skill level. So you know, don't put too much pressure on yourself to be at that level of maybe like work you're seeing or work you're, yeah, like what you imagine like good illustration is. Like just keep making, like they said.
Thanks, guys. I think I should cut it off there because we've already run over by 10 minutes. And I'm conscious of keeping you guys. But what I'll do is I've gathered up all the questions that have come in on the chat. So I will put them to the panel and I'll again kind of send around on a big email, you know, all the answers to everybody's questions. I'll send around the PDF of all the slides as well, so that you can have a proper look over them all and everything. So yeah, just want to say massive thank you to Katy, Greg and Connie for giving up their time tonight. I hope you found it really useful. And thank you so much to Francesco and Lawrence as well for being our student takeover hosts today. If you would like to be part of the panel on one of these events, then please do drop me an email, sam@ternheads.com. And yeah, do head over to Tern Heads on social media or on the website and sign up for free, and, you know, become part of the community. You know, lots of people from lots of different unis, lots of different experience levels. And yeah, I just want to say some of my favourite points, I think, is don't just rely on applying for job ads, because I totally agree with that one from Connie. Steal paper from your uni as well. I thought that was a good one from Katy. And jeans are not money as well. I like that. So yeah. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone for coming. And yeah, do stay in touch and chat around on social media, and we will see you at the next Tern Heads Takeover event.